wasituambie wanataka kujenga madaraja na huku nyuma wako na mipango ya kubomoa na kuchoma madaraja mengine na mambo ya kujipanga na kupanga venye watakupangia impeachment. Lakini tumewaambia jeshi la Uhuru Kenyatta na William Ruto liko tayari.
Sisi kama viongozi wa Jubilee tunataka kusema hivi. Don't tell us you are working with Uhuru. Show us.
Welcome back to Jeff Koinange Live. In the studio, Nyeri Town Member of Parliament Gunjiri Wambogo and Kikuyu Constituency Member of Parliament Kimani Ichung'wah. Gentlemen, let's face it. For those who don't know, Tanga-Tanga is associated with Deputy President William Ruto. And Kieleweke purports to support the president. Okay? That's how it is. So, the question is, 2013, these guys were together, man. They seemed like the unbeatable team. 4-5 years later, it's not the case. What happened? What happened, Mheshimiwa?
Let me say, Jeff, maybe just to correct you from what you said, the description of what would be Tanga-Tanga and what would be the Kieleweke team. I told you, even those of us that have been branded Tanga-Tanga, because we've just been branded Tanga-Tanga. We have never defined ourselves as Tanga-Tanga. We support President Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto as our party leaders in Jubilee. And we support Jubilee as a political party and the agenda that brought us together in Jubilee.
Okay, but
this other formation that you say, and I think you put it right, they purport to support the president to the exclusion of the deputy president.
But let me ask you this. When the president says, don't campaign, no more campaigns for 2022, let's concentrate on developmental projects. Agenda 4, big 4 agenda. You guys are campaigning.
I'm telling you, Jeff, first I'll come to the issue of campaigning and whether there is or there is no campaigning. I'm telling you, the other Kieleweke group is a small group within Jubilee, probably led by the ODM members of parliament and their former sympathizers, like my friend Honorable Gunjiri here, who was not just an advisor within ODM, but a very serious ODM member. And before that, I think by the time he was in Kanu before eventually he came to Jubilee. Therefore, there is a formation of ODM members of parliament and their sympathizers within Jubilee, who, as you say, purport to be supporting the president to the exclusion of the deputy president. But many of us who believed in that Jubilee dream and the ideology that brought together President Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto under Jubilee and made them in 2016, 2017 to amalgamate close to 14 political parties to form one solid national movement that we call Jubilee. For those of us who still hold that dear, we are taken aback when we see that the likes of Honorable Gunjiri, who only 5 years before that wrote over 100 articles saying why and how President Uhuru Kenyatta should not be president, how William Ruto and President Kenyatta are murderers and rapists who should be in jail in The Hague and should never afford the opportunity to lead this country. Those of us who believed and loved Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto then, we prayed for and with them, and we worked very hard, and by God's grace we were able to win the 2013 elections. And we worked with them very well all the way to 2017, and now we are still doing that. So look at any of the members of parliament within Jubilee. How, because you will say whether a member of parliament supports the Jubilee agenda based on how they vote in parliament. And their participation in parliament. Records speak for themselves. Just Google and look at our Hansard in parliament, both in committees and in plenary. Look at all our members of parliament and who are the most active members of parliament in terms of pushing forth the Jubilee agenda.
Okay, hang on. Mheshimiwa Wambogo, it looks like your colleague here, his biggest problem seems to be ODM then.
Yes, it does. Which is actually quite hilarious.
Yes.
Because he talks about 2013. 5 years before 2013, his principal, William Ruto, was in charge of ODM in Rift Valley. 5 years before 2013, Ruto was a Pentagon member in ODM. I was in ODM, I was never that high. I never got to that position. Ruto was in charge of Rift Valley, ODM. And when the ODM of Rift Valley, we know what happened in 2007. We know how much violence we had. And I keep saying this every time I hear this conversation about ODM. ODM has lost 4 elections. And they have claimed that each election was stolen. Vigorously claimed that each election was stolen. The only time we had strategic targeted violence was in 2007. After 2007, William Ruto and the cohort that was in ODM left ODM. 2013, ODM lost elections. They claimed they were stolen. We didn't see targeted violence. 2017, the first election, same thing happened. We didn't see targeted violence. 2017, the repeat election, we didn't see targeted violence. So what's the point? What point am I making? First and foremost, when you go that route of ODM, be very careful, because the ODM I know. I was not even in ODM in 2007, when ODM was running strategic violence activities in Rift Valley. But ended up taking people to the ICC, you know, and that's a history we should never walk away from. Number 2, you know, in 2013, in 2012, William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta did a handshake. 2018, Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga did a handshake. That handshake, both handshakes were done by people who had been enemies before. The handshake of 2012 was not a handshake between friends. It was a handshake between 2 people who were rivals, who were in court in the ICC against each other. They did a handshake, they brought peace within a section of the country. In 2018, Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga did another handshake. Again, they were coming from a background of being against each other. And then we have seen come in the country. Now, when I listen to my brother speak about a group that supports the president and the deputy president, that's the problem. We don't have 2 leaders in Jubilee. We have 1. William Ruto doesn't have anything he does except what he is told by the president. So when you ask me to support the deputy president, what are you asking me to support him to do? Because the only job he has is what he is given by the president. So if I am supporting the president, I am automatically supporting the deputy president if he is doing the work he has been given by the president. Why we are having a problem is because the deputy president has decided that the president has 3 critical agendas that he has laid out before us. The first one is the handshake. He wants us to unite the country and make the handshake work. As of just today, he was very upset with those people who are fighting the handshake. As of today, the deputy president is on record publicly denouncing the handshake. Now, I ask myself, as a member of Jubilee, my party leader, who is also the commander-in-chief and the president of the republic, has told us, make this thing work. His principal assistant is telling us, this thing will not work. This thing is brought, the person who came into this thing came with malice, came with what? And I always say, I did a lot. I was in ODM, I left ODM, I joined Jubilee, and I fought Raila with everything I had. One day I woke up and I saw Uhuru and Raila shaking hands. And I'm like, so we are not fighting anymore? Sour. President tells us, from now on, we are working with this guy. He's my commander-in-chief. I said, yes, sir. My fight with Raila ended that day. Today, if tomorrow they woke up and the president told me this thing is not working, I'll start fighting Raila immediately. That is how party discipline is done. You cannot have, you know, Raila did not shake hands with himself. When you attack the handshake, that handshake has 50% Raila, 50% Uhuru. When you're attacking the handshake when you're from Jubilee, the person you're actually attacking is Uhuru Kenyatta, not Raila.
What's your problem with the handshake?
Yes. Well,
what's your problem with the handshake?
Jeff, I've said, and let me repeat it here. The handshake is a good thing for this country. To the extent, especially if it is to bring in tranquility, because that is just a continuation of what President Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto started with the original handshake in 2012. And we have been very faithful to that aspect. The problem comes when, and you put it right, that my problem is ODM. And ODM are political competitors. I have my own views about ODM as a political party and what they stand for. In fact, I was a little taken aback when Ngunjiri, who came from ODM, asked for this fire extinguisher to be put next to him, knowing the history that ODM as a political party comes with in terms of violence and perpetuation of violence. And I said, I'll keep my cool. I will use my mouth. Not
ODM Ruto was in charge.
ODM Ruto was in charge. So I have said, and I dare repeat it here, Jeff, and even in the clip you played there.
Yes.
We have a handshake, and which when President Uhuru Kenyatta on March 9th, 2018, on the steps of Harambee House, shook hands with Raila Odinga, and they gave their 9-point agenda on that. We respected that. And we took it that it was in the best interest of the country. However, fast forward, and the clip you just played, it said it. Fast forward, James Orengo, who is Raila Odinga's confidant, tells us about an impeachment motion on Deputy President William Ruto. Weeks or a month before that, the deputy party leader in ODM, governor from Mombasa, speaking in Vihiga, says that they are under instructions to fight to the last minute the deputy party leader and deputy president of the Republic of Kenya, a deputy party leader of Jubilee, as a political party. Therefore, I would have a problem where we are talking about peace when we stretch our hands forward. But the other hand that we can't see is chopping off your back. Because as my good friend Gunjiri says here, Jubilee has one leader, and none other than the deputy president has said that severally, that we only have one leader, Uhuru Kenyatta, and the rest of us. And he says, mimi ndiye mtu yake ya mkono. And therefore, whatever the deputy president will be doing with the express authority of the president. Therefore, if I accompany the deputy president, for instance, to commission a road project in Kirinyaga or in Kiambu, like I've done severally, last being one in Wangige, I am only doing what I am charged as a member of Jubilee to do. Okay. To work with the deputy president as the principal assistant to the president. And therefore, anybody interpreting that you are working with the deputy president, then you are not working with the president. That is a fallacy. I'm saying that is only a divide that is being brought in by ODM and their sympathizers.
Okay, at the same time, when the president's war on corruption, your wing, if we call it that, thinks that you are being targeted, or the deputy president is being targeted as an individual.
I'll say this because I spoke about the work of DCI and EACC, and I say that in public, and I have no fear of contradiction, Jeff, repeating it here. That one, we have institutions that we have charged with the responsibility of fighting corruption in this country, DCI, EACC, DPP. If you read the context of our constitution, this ought to be very independent institutions.
And you don't think they are?
Especially DPP and EACC.
You don't think they are?
DCI is not as independent as EACC.
Why do you say that?
DPP would be. One, we appropriate money in the National Assembly for all these institutions. The constitutional commissions have a very well appropriated budget for their offices. They have their own accounting officers within the independent commissions. The office of a DPP also has an independent constitutional office. And therefore, my contextualization of how should we be fighting the fight against corruption, I said before the 2017 elections, Jeff, and it's good because we are discussing this a week after I saw a report. When I was away, I saw a newspaper report by quoting the Auditor General, Edward Ouko, on the Eurobond scandal. Remember President Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto in the last first regime between 2013 and 2017, after the 2014 Eurobond, they were accused to have stolen the entire 200 billion shillings of the Eurobond money. The Auditor General today has just told us that indeed there was no money lost. Therefore, I had a problem, and I still have a problem, Jeff, when the office of DCI leaks information to the media to report that so much money in billions, and that is what has angered Kenyans, that we are not losing money in millions or in hundreds of millions. It's now gone into billions and tens of billions. And we leak information on investigations we are doing. When we leak this information, it is in a way directed to Jeff, for instance, that this money is Jeff who was in charge. And you saw the ping pong between the ministries, how KVDA, for instance, on the dams thing, moved from this ministry to that ministry, how it pulls in so many other names. And I saw how CS Kiunjuri, the lamentations he had outside the DCI gates, that you have dragged our names through all this mud, being tagged as corrupt people, thieves. And at the end of the day, if, for instance, you see people being taken to court, they're taken to court for far much less amounts. But we have already poisoned the public's mind. And I believe that is what President Uhuru Kenyatta, because he's a man who believes in the rule of law. Yeah. And like those I say, and I told you I have a problem, I have no reason to hide with ODM, who believe that the rule of law should only be applied selectively and for political expediency. President Kenyatta, in his State of the Nation address, spoke about vigilante justice and said, even in this fight against corruption, we must follow the rule of law. We should not subject people to vigilante justice where you walk into churches every Sunday morning and go and shout about Jeff or Ishongwa being a thief. Yet, weeks before that, the president is telling you, if you have any evidence against Jeff or against Kimani Ishongwa or against Wambugu, please just take a walk to DCI,
but Mheshimiwa,
offer that evidence.
Okay, but it was none other than Deputy President William Ruto who, when we was talking about the Awaror and Kamoror and the other dam, he mentioned, oh, it was only 7 billion shillings that was lost.
True.
Only 7 billion.
Not true.
You know, he did.
He never used the words not lost. Jeff, it was at the launch of the judiciary, State of the Judiciary report. I was seated on the front row.
What did he say?
In that meeting. What William Ruto said was, there are reports, for instance, he used it as an example, and he said, for instance, there are reports that we have lost as a country in an advance payment for some dams, Aror and Kimwarer, 21 billion shillings, which is not the case. The only money in question that has been paid as an advance payment is about 7-point-something billion.
Only, he said only.
And that money is not lost. We are leading a responsible government with his principal, the president, seated right behind him. He said, we are leading a responsible government.
You know, first, I need to make a quick comment on the issue of the handshake as I move into this fighting corruption. When my brother keeps saying that the handshake, people from the handshake, Joho, what are they called? This other guy, Orengo, are using the handshake to fight William Ruto. He needs to notice something. He needs to know something. The competition between ODM and Jubilee has not gotten finished, right? Yeah. There's going to be political competition. There's going to be political competition in the House sometimes, because they're still the opposition. You know, it doesn't change because we have a handshake. The only thing that handshake did was say, like, from now on, can we try and do what is in the best interest of the country in every particular issue that we deal with? Yeah. And I keep coming back to this point. The president has said over and over again, I believe in the handshake. He is the only one who did that handshake. Kimani Ichung'wah wasn't there. Deputy President William Ruto wasn't there. Orengo wasn't there. Joho wasn't there. They sat as two leaders of opposing political establishments and agreed they're going to work together. They haven't come out and said this is not working. But we have people like Ishung'wah, we have people like the Deputy President going around telling everybody, this thing is not working. It has come to spoil our house. And that's why, and I'm so happy to hear the President saying today, that people, who are these people who are saying this thing has come to spoil Jubilee or come to interfere with ODM? Because if you don't even know what the handshake is for, it is about, the only person who can tell you that it's working or not is Uhuru Kenyatta, and then also what you see. We are seeing the shilling stabilizing. We are seeing the country stabilizing. We are seeing our economy going. We are seeing tourism. I mean, at the coast, hotels are nearly fully booked all the time. That's what the handshake has done. We are seeing people from Nyeri being able to go and do business in Kisumu. We are seeing the Deputy President being able to go and do a political event in Kisumu or Nyanza. That is what the handshake has done. So when I see people pointing fingers at the handshake and saying that this handshake is about spoiling, some people, with all due respect to my Deputy President, this country is more important than his ambition to be president. He needs to stop imagining that everything that happens in this country is about affecting his presidential ambitions. Because if you remove the ambitions of William Ruto from the handshake, everybody would have no problem with it. The only reason they have a problem with it is because it affects Deputy President William Ruto's capacity to become president. And I don't think it should, because he doesn't want to lead a country that is divided either. I would assume he wants to lead a country that is united. And bringing us together, as I said, it allows him to go and campaign in Nyanza, it allows him to go and campaign in Kisii, it allows him to go and campaign in Mombasa, places he would never have gone before the handshake. So that is important, and it is important for us to keep telling Kenyans not to get pulled in by us politicians into splitting ourselves again, especially when our leaders are telling us they want this handshake to work. On the issue of the fight against corruption, one of the things I cannot understand is why the Tanga-Tanga team here has decided that they are the defenders of the process of how the fight against corruption should be done. They are not investigators, they are politicians. We have a very, very, very professional DCI. If we didn't, we should be talking about his ability to do his work. What I am seeing is people doing everything they can to undermine him from doing his work. When you talk about it is not 21 billion, it is 7 billion. In the process of an investigation, what are you telling the investigator? Stop looking for 21 billion, look for 7. First, why are you even commenting about an investigation that is going on? Why don't you let the agencies that are doing the investigations sort it out? Once they take the case to court, if they take the case to court, we will deal with it at that point, as when information starts becoming public. This issue of politicizing the fight against corruption, I keep hearing people saying it's vigilante justice. The people who are out there saying this thing is targeting us is Sudi, is Sang, Governor Sang, is people who are associated with Tanga-Tanga. And I'm wondering, nobody has been mentioned. So, you know, in my village, we have a saying that if you see somebody running around saying, you know, if I wake up and say I've lost a phone, and Jeff, you say it is not me, I'm going to have to ask myself, why did you assume I was talking about you?
Yeah. Okay, gentlemen, we have to pay some bills, so we're going to take a quick break, come back, and delve more on this corruption thing. Are we winning the war on corruption? Are we winning it, or is it a lost cause? And the legacy for the president, whom you both respect very much, and all of us do, is he going to have a legacy in what, 3 years and change? The way we're going. Let's talk about that. Keep tweeting at Koinange Jeff, at Citizen TV Kenya. The hashtag is JK Live. So much more ahead. Stay with us. We'll be right back in a moment.